It was a super hot summer day at the Sunshine Hotel. The sun was blazing in the sky, and the pool area was full of happy sounds. Kids were yelling and jumping into the water, making big splashes with their cannonballs. Adults sat under huge umbrellas, sipping icy drinks like lemonade and soda. The air smelled like sunscreen and chlorine, and everyone seemed to be having the best time ever. In the middle of all this fun was a guy named BigShaq. He stood out like a bright star, and not just because he was tall and loud. He was wearing super colorful swim trunks, bright red with yellow stars all over them. They were so loud you couldn't miss them. BigShaq was the kind of guy who made everyone laugh. He was cracking jokes left and right, like, "Why don't fish ever get lost? Because they always follow the current." The kids giggled, and even the grown ups chuckled. Then he'd bust out these wild dance moves, spinning around, waving his arms like a goofy octopus, and kicking his legs high in the air. People clapped and cheered, shouting, "Go, BigShaq, go." He had this huge grin on his face, showing all his teeth, and his eyes sparkled like he was having the best day of his life. To most people by the pool, BigShaq was the coolest guy around. He was loud, funny, and full of energy. Who wouldn't like him, right? Well, not everyone thought he was so great. Over by the edge of the pool stood Mr. Grayson, the hotel manager. He wasn't smiling, not even a little. His face looked sour, like he'd just bitten into a lemon. Mr. Grayson was a tall, skinny man with a big nose and tiny glasses perched on the end of it. He wore a fancy black suit, even though it was crazy hot outside. Sweat dripped down his forehead, but he didn't care. He stood there with his arms crossed, watching BigShaq like a hawk. To Mr. Grayson, this place, the Sunshine Hotel, was supposed to be fancy and quiet. He wanted it to feel like a place for rich people who whispered instead of laughed. And BigShaq? Oh, he definitely didn't fit into that picture. Mr. Grayson thought he was the boss of everything. He walked around like a king, telling people what to do. Wipe those tables, he'd snap at the workers. Fix those chairs, he'd bark at someone else. He liked things perfect, and he liked people to be quiet and boring. So when he saw BigShaq splashing around, making noise, and getting everyone all excited, it made him mad. Really mad. His eyebrows scrunched up, and his lips turned into a thin, angry line. To him, BigShaq looked like trouble. Just some loud, silly guy who didn't belong in a fancy hotel like this. Who does he think he is? Mr. Grayson muttered under his breath. He didn't like BigShaq's bright swim trunks, his big voice, or his wild dancing. Not one bit. But here's the thing, Mr. Grayson didn't know the whole story. BigShaq wasn't just some random goofy guy who showed up to swim. Oh no, there was more to him than that. Way more. He wasn't just there to splash around and tell jokes. He had something special, something secret, that nobody, not even grumpy Mr. Grayson, knew about yet. It wasn't hidden in his pockets, because swim trunks don't have pockets. It wasn't in his hands, because he was too busy waving them around. It was something bigger, something awesome, and it was going to change everything. But what was it? What could BigShaq possibly be hiding that made him so much more than he seemed? Let's paint the picture a little more so you can really see it. The pool was huge, with sparkly blue water that shimmered under the sun. There were tall palm trees all around, their green leaves swaying in the warm breeze. Little kids in floaties bobbed up and down, laughing as they splashed each other. Moms and dads lounged on white chairs, sipping drinks with tiny umbrellas in them. The air was full of happy chatter and the sound of water splashing. And right there, in the center of it all, was BigShaq. He'd jump into the pool with a big woohoo, and make waves that splashed everyone nearby. Then he'd pop back up, shaking water out of his hair like a wet dog, and yell, "Who's ready for round two?" The crowd loved it. They'd shout back, "We are," and clap some more. BigShaq didn't care if people stared. He didn't care if he was loud. He was just being himself, and that's what made him so fun to watch. His swim trunks were soaking wet now, sticking to his legs, but he didn't mind. He'd climb out of the pool, do a little shimmy shake dance, and then cannonball right back in. Splash! The kids would scream with joy, and even the grumpy old guy in the corner cracked a tiny smile. BigShaq had this magic way of making everyone feel happy, well, almost everyone. Mr. Grayson, though. He wasn't buying it. He stood there, arms still crossed, tapping his foot like he was counting down the seconds until he could yell at someone. His suit was dark and stuffy, and it made him look out of place next to all the bright swimsuits and sunny vibes. He kept staring at BigShaq, his eyes narrow and mean. "This isn't a circus," he grumbled to himself. "This is a fancy hotel, and I'm in charge here." He thought BigShaq was just some loud troublemaker who didn't belong. He didn't see the way people smiled because of BigShaq. He didn't hear the laughter that filled the air. All he saw was a guy who didn't fit his rules. What Mr. Grayson didn't know, what he couldn't even guess, was that BigShaq wasn't just some guy. He wasn't just there to swim and joke around. There was something big about him, something hidden, like a treasure waiting to be found. Imagine if you had a secret so cool that nobody could guess it. Maybe you're really a superhero, or maybe you've got a magic key in your bag. That's what BigShaq had, something amazing that was going to turn this whole day upside down. But what was it? Was it something shiny? Something powerful? Something that would make Mr. Grayson's jaw drop? Here's a little hint: BigShaq wasn't scared of Mr. Grayson. Not even a little. While the manager huffed and puffed, BigShaq just kept smiling. That smile, it was like he knew something big was coming. Like he was waiting for the perfect moment to surprise everyone. So, what do you think he was hiding? Was it something funny? Something strong? Something that would make the whole pool cheer even louder? You've got to stick around to find out, because this story's just getting started, and it's going to get wild. The sun was still blazing high in the sky at the Sunshine Hotel, and the pool area had been full of fun just a minute ago. But now, things were getting serious. Mr. Grayson, the hotel manager, stormed over to the pool like he was on a mission. His shiny black shoes clicked loud on the tiles, click, 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 like a clock ticking down to trouble. He stopped right at the edge of the water, his face all red and sweaty from the heat and his anger. He pointed one long, bony finger straight at BigShaq and shouted, "You! Get out of my pool right now!" Everything went quiet. The kids stopped splashing. The adults put down their drinks. Even the little waves in the pool seemed to freeze. BigShaq was in the middle of a funny dance move, one leg up and his arms waving like a silly bird. When Grayson yelled, he stopped right where he was. Water dripped off his bright red swim trunks, plopping onto the tiles. He tilted his head and raised one eyebrow, looking at Grayson like he was a little confused. "Me?" he asked, his voice super calm and cool, like he wasn't scared at all. Grayson puffed up his chest, making himself look bigger. His fancy suit stretched tight over his shoulders, and his tiny glasses slid down his nose a bit. "Yes, you," he snapped, his voice loud and sharp. "This isn't a playground for loud troublemakers like you. This is my hotel, and I say who stays and who goes. Get out before I call security." His words were mean, and his eyes were narrow, like he was trying to scare BigShaq into running away. The people around the pool didn't know what to do. Some of them whispered to each other, their voices soft and sneaky. "Whoa, he's in trouble now," one kid said to his friend. A lady in a big sun hat smirked, like she thought BigShaq was about to get super embarrassed and slink away. But other people didn't like it. A dad with a lemonade frowned and muttered, "Why's he being so mean? The guy's just having fun." A little girl in Floida's looked sad and said, "I like his dances." The air felt heavy, like something big was about to happen, and everyone was waiting to see what came next. BigShaq didn't yell back. He didn't even look mad. He just stood there, water still dripping off him, and gave a little smile. It wasn't a big goofy grin like before, this one was small and sneaky, like he knew something Grayson didn't. Slowly, he climbed out of the pool. Water splashed everywhere as he stepped onto the tiles, making little puddles around his feet. He stood up tall, way taller than Grayson, and shook his head a bit, sending drops flying. "All right, boss," he said, his voice smooth like butter. "I'll get out. But you might want to hear me out first." Grayson didn't like that one bit. He snorted, a loud, rude sound, and crossed his arms tight over his chest. "I don't care what you have to say," he barked. "You're loud, you're messy, and you don't belong here. Move it now." His face was getting redder, and his glasses fogged up a little from how hot and mad he was. He thought he had all the power. He thought BigShaq was just some silly guy who'd bow his head and walk away. Oh, but he had no idea what was coming. Not a single clue. The crowd watched, holding their breath. The kids peeked out from behind their floatas, eyes wide. The adults leaned forward in their chairs, trying to hear every word. You could feel the tension building, like a rubber band stretching tighter and tighter. Something was up, something big. BigShaq's little smile made you wonder, why wasn't he scared? Why wasn't he arguing? What did he know that Grayson didn't? It was like he was playing a game, and he was winning, even if nobody else could see it yet. Let's picture it some more. The pool was still shiny and blue, but now it felt different. The palm trees swayed a little in the breeze, and the sun beat down hard, making everything hot and sticky. Grayson's suit looked silly now, too dark and heavy for a sunny day like this. His shoes were so shiny they reflected the water, and his hands were clenched into fists. He stood there, glaring at BigShaq, thinking he was the king of the hotel. He was sure he'd get his way, like he always did. He'd kicked people out before, quiet people, shy people, and they'd always left with their heads down. He thought BigShaq would be the same. But BigShaq wasn't like those other people. He stood there, tall and strong, with water dripping off his arms and legs. His red swim trunks with yellow stars were soaking wet, sticking to him, but he didn't care. He looked at Grayson with that calm, cool smile, like he wasn't worried at all. "You sure about this?" he asked, his voice so steady it made Grayson blink. The manager huffed and puffed, but BigShaq didn't budge. He just kept standing there, like a tree that wouldn't bend in the wind. The people watching started to feel it too, that something wasn't right. Why was BigShaq so chill? Most people would be mad or scared if a bossy guy like Grayson yelled at them. Most people would stomp off or start shouting back. But not BigShaq. He was too relaxed, too sure of himself. It made the crowd whisper more. "What's he gonna do?" a boy asked his mom. "I don't know," she whispered back, "but he's not acting like he's in trouble." Even the smirky lady in the sun had stopped smirking. She tilted her head, curious now. Grayson didn't notice the whispers. He was too busy being mad. "I said move," he yelled again, pointing toward the hotel doors. "You're ruining my pool. You're too loud, too wild, too everything. Out." He stomped one foot, like a kid throwing a fit, and his glasses almost fell off. He thought he looked tough, but he just looked silly next to BigShaq, who was so calm it was almost funny. BigShaq shrugged, like it was no big deal. Okay, he said, still smiling that sneaky smile. "I'm going." He took one step toward the hotel, then stopped. He turned his head just a little and looked at Grayson. "But trust me," he added, "you're gonna wish you listened." His voice was quiet now, but it had a spark in it like a tiny fire starting to grow. Grayson laughed, a short, mean laugh. "Yeah, right," he said. "Go on, get lost." The tension was thick now, like fog you could feel. The crowd was on edge, waiting for something, anything to happen. BigShaq's words hung in the air, "You're gonna wish you listened." What did that mean? What was he planning? Was he just joking, or did he have something up his sleeve? Well, not his sleeve, because he was in swim trunks, but you know what I mean. Grayson didn't see it, didn't feel it, but everyone else did. Something big was coming, and it was going to shake things up. BigShaq didn't say a word back to Grayson. He didn't yell or fight. Instead, he just grabbed his towel, a big, fluffy blue one with little fish on it, and slung it over his shoulder like it was no big deal. Then he started walking toward the hotel lobby. His wet feet slapped the tiles, slap, 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 and little drops of water fell behind him. He didn't rush or look scared. He strolled, nice and easy, like he was taking a walk in the park. Mr. Grayson followed right behind him, stomping along like a grumpy shadow. His shiny shoes clicked loud, and his face was still red and mad. As they walked, Grayson wouldn't stop talking. He kept muttering mean things under his breath, loud enough for BigShaq to hear. "People like you don't belong here," he grumbled. "This is a fancy hotel, not some noisy playground." Then he puffed up his chest again and added, "I keep this place classy. You're just a loud mess." His voice was sharp, like he wanted to sting BigShaq with every word. He thought he was winning, chasing BigShaq out like a pesky fly. But BigShaq? He didn't even flinch. He stayed quiet, walking steady and calm. If you looked close, though, you'd see his eyes. They twinkled, like little stars dancing in them. It was like he was waiting for just the right moment to do something big. What was he up to? You could feel something brewing. They got to the hotel lobby, and it was a whole different world from the pool. Outside was all sunshine and splashes, but inside was cool and quiet. The floor was shiny marble, so clean you could see your face in it. Big fancy chairs sat around, with soft cushions in colors like gold and red. A few guests were there, sipping fancy drinks with tiny umbrellas in them. Some had iced tea, others had juice, and they all looked up when BigShaq and Grayson walked in. Their eyes got wide, and they leaned closer to watch. They figured BigShaq was in big trouble now. "Oh, he's done for," one lady whispered to her friend. "The manager's kicking him out," a man said, shaking his head. They thought Grayson had won, and BigShaq was about to slink away with his head down. But BigShaq didn't look worried. He didn't hang his head or shuffle his feet. He walked right up to the front desk, where a clerk in a neat uniform stood behind a big counter. The clerk had a friendly face and a name tag that said Tim. BigShaq leaned on the counter, all casual, and said, "Hey, Tim, can you grab my stuff from the safe?" His voice was smooth, like he was asking for a snack, not like he'd just been yelled at by a grumpy manager. Tim nodded, quick and happy, like he liked BigShaq. "Sure thing," he said, and he turned to a little metal box behind him, the hotel safe, where people kept important things. Grayson stood a few steps back, arms crossed tight. He watched with a mean smirk on his face, like he thought this was all a big joke. Tim came back with a small black wallet, plain and simple, and handed it to BigShaq. Grayson rolled his eyes so hard they almost popped out. "What, you gonna bribe me with a couple bucks?" he sneered, his voice dripping with sass. He laughed a little, a short, nasty laugh, like he was so sure BigShaq had nothing important. "Go ahead, try it," he added, leaning forward like he couldn't wait to see BigShaq fail. He thought this was the end of it. BigShaq would pull out some crumpled dollar bills, look silly, and leave. The guests in the fancy chairs thought so too. They whispered again, all sneaky like. "He's got nothing," one guy said, sipping his drink. "Poor guy's just stalling," a lady in a big hat mumbled. They were so sure Grayson was right that BigShaq was just some loud guy with no power, no plan, no nothing. The air in the lobby felt heavy now, like everyone was waiting for BigShaq to flop. Even Tim, the clerk, looked a tiny bit nervous, like he hoped BigShaq had something good up his sleeve or, well, in his wallet, since he didn't have sleeves. But BigShaq didn't flop. He didn't even blink. He took the little black wallet from Tim and held it in his big hand. Then he chuckled a low, happy sound that made Grayson stop smirking for a second. "Not quite," BigShaq said, his voice calm but strong. He opened the wallet slow, real slow, like he wanted everyone to wonder what was inside. His fingers moved careful, and that sneaky twinkle in his eyes got brighter. The guests stopped sipping their drinks. Tim leaned over the counter a little. Even Grayson's smirk wobbled, like he wasn't so sure anymore. The air got thick with curiosity, like when you're about to open a present and you don't know what's inside, but you know it's gonna be good. What was he about to pull out? It wasn't a wad of cash. Grayson was wrong about that. It wasn't a candy bar or a toy or anything silly. It was something small, something flat, something that fit in that tiny wallet. BigShaq's smile grew just a little, and he glanced at Grayson quick, like he was saying, "Watch this." The manager huffed, still trying to act tough, but you could tell he was starting to wonder. "What's he got?" the lady in the hat whispered loud enough for her friend to hear. "I don't know, but he's not scared," the friend whispered back. The man with the iced tea sat up straighter, his eyes locked on BigShaq's hands. "Let's set the scene a bit more." The lobby was big and fancy, with tall windows letting in soft light. A shiny chandelier hung from the ceiling, all sparkly with crystals that jingled a little when the air moved. The front desk was long and wooden, polished so bright it glowed. Tim stood there, his uniform crisp and blue, watching like he was in on a secret. The guests in their fancy chairs were dressed in nice clothes, dresses and hats and sunglasses, like they were on a big vacation. And then there was BigShaq, still in his wet swim trunks, dripping a little on the marble floor. He didn't fit in with all this fancy stuff, but he didn't care. He stood tall, holding that wallet, and everyone couldn't look away. Grayson tried to keep acting mean. "Hurry up already," he snapped, tapping his foot. Click, click, click. Whatever you've got, it's not gonna change anything. But his voice wasn't as loud now. It was like he was starting to feel a tiny bit unsure. BigShaq didn't rush. He took his time, letting the moment stretch out. He knew something big, and he was waiting for just the right second to show it. The twinkle in his eyes said it all. He wasn't done yet. Not even close. The tension was growing, like a balloon getting bigger and bigger. What was in that wallet? Why was BigShaq so calm? Why did he chuckle like he had a trick ready? The guests were hooked now, leaning in, waiting. Tim smiled a tiny bit, like he might know something too. Grayson's smirk was almost gone, replaced with a tiny frown. The air felt electric, like a storm was about to break. Whatever BigShaq was about to pull out, it was going to shake things up, and you're gonna love what happens next. Stick around, because this is where it gets wild. The lobby of the Sunshine Hotel was buzzing with quiet whispers, but all eyes were on BigShaq. He stood there, still dripping wet from the pool, holding that little black wallet in his big hand. Mr. Grayson, the grumpy manager, stood a few steps away, arms crossed and a mean look on his face. He thought he'd won. He thought BigShaq was just some loud guy who'd slink away after all his yelling. But oh boy, was he wrong. BigShaq wasn't done, not even close. He turned to Grayson, slow and calm, and pulled something out of the wallet. He held it up high, a shiny gold card that sparkled under the lobby's fancy lights. Grayson squinted at it, his tiny glasses slipping down his nose. At first, he didn't get it. He leaned closer, his eyebrows scrunching up like he was trying to figure out a puzzle. Then bam, his eyes got huge, and his jaw dropped so fast it looked like it might fall right off his face and hit the shiny marble floor. He froze, like a statue, not moving, not even blinking. That card wasn't just any old card. It was special, super special. It was a VIP owner's pass, the kind only the top boss of the hotel could have. And guess who was holding it? BigShaq. Wait, what? Grayson stammered, his voice all shaky and small. He couldn't believe it. His mouth opened and closed like a fish out of water, but no big words came out this time. BigShaq grinned a big, happy grin that showed all his teeth. He looked at Grayson and said, "Oh, didn't I mention? I own this place. Bought it last month. Surprise." His voice was smooth and loud, filling the whole lobby so everyone could hear. It was like he'd been waiting all day to drop that bombshell, and now boom, there it was. The lobby went dead silent for a second. You could hear a pin drop on that fancy floor. Then gasp, the guests in the big chairs sucked in their breath all at once. Their eyes got wide, and their hands flew to their mouths. "No way," a lady in a big hat whispered. "He's the owner," a man with a drink said, almost spilling it. Tim, the clerk behind the desk, smirked a little, like he'd known something was up all along. He leaned on the counter, watching it all like it was the best show ever. Grayson's face? Oh, it was a mess. First it turned bright red, like a tomato, then it went super white, like he'd seen a ghost. He looked like he might fall over right there. BigShaq didn't stop grinning. He stepped closer to Grayson, real slow, holding that gold card up so the manager could see it clear as day. The card was shiny and pretty, with fancy writing on it that said owner in big letters. It even had a little picture of the Sunshine Hotel on it, with the pool and palm trees. BigShaq leaned in close, so close Grayson could probably smell the chlorine on him, and said, "So, about that pool. I think I'll stay." "You got a problem with that, manager?" His voice was strong now, not sneaky or quiet anymore. It was like he was saying, "I'm the boss here, not you." The crowd couldn't hold it in anymore. They erupted, boom, like a volcano of cheers. "Woohoo," the kids yelled, jumping up from their chairs. "Yeah, BigShaq," the adults shouted, clapping their hands loud. The lady in the hat clapped too, her jaw still hanging open. The man with the drink laughed and raised his glass, like he was toasting BigShaq. Even little Tim behind the desk started clapping, his smirk turning into a big smile. The lobby was alive now, full of noise and excitement, all because of BigShaq and his big surprise. Grayson. He didn't know what hit him. He stood there, still frozen, his arms dropping to his sides. His fancy suit looked silly now, all stiff and sweaty. His shiny shoes didn't click anymore, he was too shocked to move. His mouth moved a little, like he wanted to say something mean, but nothing came out. He'd been so sure BigShaq was just some loud guy, some troublemaker he could boss around. He'd yelled and stomped and acted like a king, but now he looked small, like a kid who'd lost a game he thought he'd win. Let's picture it some more, because this moment was huge. The lobby was fancy and bright, with that big chandelier sparkling above. The gold card in BigShaq's hand caught the light, flashing like a treasure. His red swim trunks with yellow stars were still wet, dripping tiny drops onto the floor, but he didn't care. He stood tall, like a superhero who just saved the day. The guests were all around, some standing now, their fancy clothes rustling as they clapped. Tim leaned on the desk, his blue uniform neat and tidy, watching like he was proud of BigShaq. And Grayson? He was a mess, sweaty, red-faced, and totally lost. BigShaq held the card up a little longer, letting everyone see it. "Yep," he said, loud and clear. "I bought this hotel last month. Been checking it out, seeing how things run. And you know what, Grayson? I don't like how you treat people." His words hit hard, like little rocks pinging off Grayson's pride. The manager blinked fast, like he was waking up from a bad dream. But he started, but BigShaq cut him off. "Nope," he said. "You don't get to yell at me or anyone anymore." The cheers got louder. "Go, BigShaq," a kid shouted, pumping his fist. "You're the best," a lady called out. The air was electric now, buzzing with excitement. BigShaq turned to the crowd and waved, his grin bigger than ever. "Thanks, everyone," he said. "This hotel's mine, and it's gonna be fun for all of us." The people loved that. They clapped even harder, their hands red from all the noise they were making. Grayson took a step back, like he wanted to disappear. His big plan to kick BigShaq out had fallen apart, crash, like a tower of blocks. He'd thought he was the boss, the king, the guy in charge. But now everyone knew the truth. BigShaq was the real boss. He'd been hiding it all along, playing in the pool, dancing and joking, just waiting for the perfect time to show who he really was. And when he did, oh, it was awesome. The lobby was still buzzing with cheers, but Grayson wasn't cheering. He stood there, his face all white and sweaty, looking like he'd just lost everything. He opened his mouth and tried to say sorry. I didn't mean. I'm sorry," he sputtered, his words tripping over each other. But BigShaq didn't want to hear it. He waved his hand, quick and sharp, like he was brushing away a fly. "Save it," he said, his voice strong and clear. "I don't like bullies running my hotel. Pack your bags, you're done here." Grayson's eyes got big, and his jaw dropped again. He couldn't believe it. He was out. Just then, two big security guys walked into the lobby. They wore black shirts and had walkie-talkies on their belts. Everyone thought they were there for BigShaq at first, but nope, they were there for Grayson. One of them pointed at the manager and said, "Let's go, sir." Grayson started mumbling excuses, fast and shaky. "I was just doing my job." "I didn't know," he said, but the security guys didn't care. They grabbed his arms, one on each side, and marched him toward the big glass doors. His shiny shoes dragged a little, and his fancy suit looked silly now, all wrinkled and sweaty. The crowd watched, some giggling, as he disappeared outside. BigShaq didn't stick around to watch. He turned and headed back to the pool, his wet swim trunks still dripping a little. When he got there, the guests went wild. "BigShaq! BigShaq!" they cheered, clapping and jumping up and down. Kids waved their floitas, and adults raised their drinks like they were toasting him. He grinned big, showing all his teeth, and shouted, "Party's back on." Then he ran to the edge of the pool and did a goofy dive, legs kicking high, arms flapping like a silly bird. Splash! He hit the water hard, sending waves everywhere. Everyone laughed and clapped even louder. The fun was back, and it felt better than ever. Word spread fast around the hotel. People started whispering, then talking, then shouting it out. The loud guy in the bright red swim trunks wasn't just some troublemaker. He was the boss, the real boss. He'd bought the hotel a month ago and had been testing it all along. He'd splashed in the pool, danced like a goof, and watched how Grayson treated people. Now everyone knew the truth, and they loved it. "He's so cool," a kid said, splashing his friend. "He's the best owner ever," a lady added, smiling big. BigShaq popped up from the water, shaking his head like a wet dog. "This place is for fun," he yelled, his voice booming over the pool. "No more mean rules, just good times for everyone." The crowd cheered again, and the party kicked into high gear. Kids did cannonballs, adults danced by the water, and the air filled with happy noise. BigShaq made sure the Sunshine Hotel would be a place for smiles, not frowns, from now on. Justice was served, and it felt awesome. So, there you have it, friends. BigShaq took a tough day and turned it into something amazing. He didn't let Grayson's mean words or grumpy face stop him. Nope. He stayed cool, kept smiling, and knew deep down who he really was. And when the time was right, bam, he showed everyone the truth. He wasn't just some loud guy splashing in the pool. He was the big boss, the one in charge, and he made everything better. Isn't that wild? It's like a superhero story, but with swim trunks and a gold card instead of a cape. Think about it for a second. BigShaq could have gotten mad when Grayson yelled at him. He could have shouted back or stomped away, all upset. But he didn't. He stayed calm and waited for the perfect moment to surprise everyone. That's pretty smart, right? Sometimes, the loudest person in the room, the one laughing, dancing, or making jokes, isn't just making noise. They might be the one calling the shots, the one with a big plan. BigShaq was loud and fun, but he was also strong and clever. He knew his worth, and that's what made him win. And what about Grayson? He judged BigShaq too fast. He saw the bright swim trunks, heard the big laugh, and thought, this guy's trouble. He didn't wait to find out who BigShaq really was. He just decided he didn't like him and tried to push him out. But guess what? The ones who judge too quick are the ones who end up speechless. Grayson's jaw dropped when he saw that gold card, and he didn't know what to say. All his mean words fell apart, and he looked silly in the end. It's a good lesson: don't be too fast to think you know someone. You might miss the real story. So, what do you think? Have you ever met someone who surprised you like BigShaq did? Maybe it was a kid at school who seemed quiet but turned out to be super good at something, like drawing or soccer. Or maybe it was a friend who acted goofy but helped you out when you needed it most. People can be full of surprises, just like BigShaq. They might not have a gold card or own a hotel, but they've got their own kind of awesome hiding inside. It's cool to think about, right? This story makes you wonder about yourself, too. What's your gold card? What's the special thing you've got that nobody knows about yet? Maybe you're great at making people laugh, or you're super kind, or you've got big dreams waiting to come true. You don't have to shout it out loud all the time, just keep being you, and when the moment's right, you can shine. BigShaq stayed true to himself, and it worked out big time. You can do that too. I'd love to hear what you think. Drop a comment below and tell me, have you ever surprised someone, or has someone shocked you like BigShaq shocked Grayson? Maybe you've got a story of your own that's just as fun. Share it with me, and let's keep the good vibes going. BigShaq's tale is done for now, but I'll see you in the next story. Get ready, it's gonna be another wild ride. Keep smiling, stay cool, and always believe in your own worth. You never know when you'll get to flip the script and make everyone cheer.